All right, hold on. Give me just a second here. Hey, welcome to the show. I was just playing some music there. Hopefully it's all working out okay. I'm going to share the screen here for a second. Normally I start this show out with get this party started, right? And today's show is really not a party. It's not a party at all. And as a matter of fact, this is I just pulled up part of David Shurter's second book that you can find online. This one was a PDF, Confessions of an Antichrist extended version. And there's documenting David posted about David Shurter's treatment of his puppy Sira that he had when he was a young man in transition from living with his parents into getting to his own apartment. So Sira was kind of like the first puppy that, he took care of while he was like learning how to take care of himself. I guess I would say it this way. But I was just kind of trying to make sure that I had all of this up the way I wanted. And I'm just going to play a little bit more intro music. I see a couple of you guys here are tuned in. Welcome to the broadcast. I'm just going to give a little bit more of a beat before I dive in and read that excerpt of David Shurter's second book, Confessions of an Antichrist, which was a follow-up to his book Rabbit Hole. Although I completely adored her, she was nonetheless a beautiful, both physically and emotionally. Nothing more than a small child, she depended on me in a way I desperately needed, and I grew to value our relationship more than I ever knew I could, compelling me to be more stable and reliable because whereas I didn't have to eat every day, she did. I finally pushed myself to get a job. My mother and Sira took to each other the minute they met, and surprisingly, the hell out of me. She declared that Sira was meant to be my dog and insisted that I not abandon her. I moved into an apartment about 6 blocks from my mother's place, and I'd often take Sira for walks that generally ended at my mom's when she was sober, making dinner and later watching Murder, She Wrote, 2020, and the myriad of mystery shows my mother enjoyed. I listened to her talk about her soaps as if they were real people, recapping her shows as if they were part of her daily day's event. And although we never spoke of the past, we once again started to allow ourselves to become close. I found work as a banquet waiter, a job that I usually kept for some time. But although the pay was good, the hours were intense and the work laborious. And I often came home tired and stressed, knowing that Sira was waiting for me was a comfort. And it was the thought of losing her that often forced me out of bed and off to work in the mornings. In the beginning, I was unfortunately quite abusive with her and a rambunctious puppy. She often found herself in trouble and having severe problems with anger. I'd often smack her with my hands or kick her, even while wearing shoes, ignoring her flinches. It all came to a head when I almost killed her. It was Easter weekend, and I'd worked 15 hours, gone home to sleep 5 hours, only to return to work another 18 hours. Tearing down and setting up banquet after banquet, I was beyond tired, and to the point of near dementia. So a coworker who was on the verge of becoming a friend gave me a ride home. When we walked into my apartment, and I saw that Sira had basically destroyed my kitchen, having dug up and chewed most of the linoleum to pieces, I flipped out, beating her severely in front of my friend, never once considering how it made me look. Later, I discovered a huge knot on her head, as large as I was surprised I hadn't killed her. Declaring this to be the last time, I vowed myself that I would never touch her again. But at work, the damage had already been done. Horrified, my coworker told everyone that he had witnessed Horrified, my coworker told everyone what he had witnessed, and word began to go around that I was violent. Paranoid that people were judging me, my days became numbered as I once again began to fade into myself. One thing I had learned is that lasting impressions can last longer than you want. And though I was deeply sorry and incredibly embarrassed for what had happened, regret rarely matters when you're a fodder for gossip. Years later in therapy, I learned that we often act upon the beliefs of our self-perceptions. Believing myself to be a bad person, I was acting in ways to prove that self-perception. The good news is that my relationship with Sira transcended all of that in a way that allowed me to start learning how to trust myself, teaching me forgiveness and patience, since Sira had gone through what everything I had put her through, and yet adored me all the same. As my constant loving compassion, she offered me a relationship that would continue to heal me until she died of old age when I was in my 30s. God often speaks in strange ways. Sira may have been only a dog, but she was the first being to teach me about unconditional love, a gift from the universe. She helped me to realize that God wasn't finished with me, while helping me to renew my faith as a living example of an answered prayer. I'm going to stop it there for a second. I kind of had to take a break after reading that, because it's really hard to read when you hear about how somebody abused their puppy in ways that David Shurter writes in his well, it's a PDF. I guess it's like his second book, but it's I don't think it's really. I don't know if you can buy it on Amazon or not, but you can find it in the Wayback Machine, and it's Confessions of an Antichrist extended version of Rabbit Hole. And I did do a little bit of research on it. I actually put the PDF in ChatGPT, because I really don't care if ChatGPT learns their language model learns David Shurter's Antichrist PDF, because I mean usually let's say you have a published periodical or something like that, you're not going to want the language models to have something that's copyrighted like that, but still you can pretty much put any book in, I guess, and say, hey, here's this book on Amazon. Can you contextualize me or give me a brief synopsis of what this is about? And, the ChatGPT will gather all of the articles and everything, that's online, and make an overall summation. The one thing I want to say about AI to everybody before I go on here is that AI can be biased. And so, when you use Grok, especially in academia, Grok is the least legitimate one. It's really funny too, because I saw Elon Musk just tout how perfect and how great his information was and exact. But a problem is that it's scraping the internet, and it's taking everything that's been written, and sometimes it's biased, or it can have a biased point of view. And also, it's only getting some information in what they're seeing in the algorithm. So, just because they see somebody post something that's false, basically the AI can't discern if something's false or true or not. It's not the barometer. It's just making an assumption based on the gathering information that it makes. You understand what I'm saying here? I hope so, because it's the misunderstanding of how these language models work are you got to be careful. So anyway, there is sources sourced in this that I have. I'm just going to skim over some of the highlights that ChatGPT did do. I think in terms of David Shurter's book, it's not really giving an opinion about it. It just looked at I said, can you contextualize this PDF for me? Break it down, kind of like a cliff notes that I can just kind of go over it without reading the entire piece. All right. So, and I will make sure that I do source this. Matter of fact, I'll do this right now. For here in the chat. And then I'll try to make sure that, I mean, if you want, remind me too, because I forget, but I will source this in this video as well, if you want to look at the different links and, come to a conclusion yourself, because again, whenever you do read something from the internet or ChatGPT, you got to be careful about what it is, right? So it's, it gives, ChatGPT did give some background on David. It said David Shurter is a self-described survivor of alleged satanic ritual abuse, SRA, and mind control programs in the United States. For example, in a podcast, he is introduced as a satanic ritual abuse survivor and discusses claims involving abuse, conspiracies, and trauma. And that's a podcast link here. I'm not going to click onto it, but it's interesting that it has Hampstead theories included in part of that podcast. The document is describing, the document is described on this site as the real extended version of Rabbit Hole, Confessions of an Antichrist. According to the table of contents in the PDF copy, the book was first copyrighted in 2011. The author claims childhood trauma involvement in generational Satanist bloodline, ritual abuse, and trajectory from victim to investigator of underground occult networks. There's an excerpt that they use. My father was very proud of being a generational Satanist and a bloodline coven of witches. I was the bad seed. From the conception on, I was always being considered by my father and his family to be the bad seed. It's interesting because Bad Seed is a play and it was made into a movie. It starred Patty McCormack. Anyway, it's kind of like it's basically about a psychopathic little girl that's blonde and blue-eyed and perfect and, can play Claire de Lune. And, it's just like, it's this exceptional child psychopath killer, because the thought of a child being a killer is really, it's horrifying. And of course it's a certain, it's like a trope of movies in a way. If you think about it thematically, David Shurter is writing about himself in this sort of fashion. He was the bad seed. They groomed him to be the Antichrist, things like this. Okay. The table of content, what the book claims to cover. The table of contents suggests a wide sweep of topics, including ritual abuse, Satanism, occult networks, MK Ultra mind control, family trauma, metaphysical spiritual transformation, cases of alleged abuse and concealment, and the author's own life journey. Some of the chapters titles: Tales of an Antichrist, The Myth of Satanism, MK Ultra, For Pederast Playground, The Franklin Fiasco, Shamanism, The Archangel Uriel, Down the Rabbit Hole, etc. Again, from the TOC. The author ties personal biography with investigative assertions, e.g. claims that his father's satanic coven, he's being groomed from birth, etc. And then, like, most of the sources here that this gives, and you know what, I will give you a flash of just a really quick glance at the sources that ChatGPT gave, but it's from his blog. It's from David Shurter's blog. That is most of the links here. The purpose and the viewpoint is the book seems intended both as a memoir of trauma and survival, and as an expose of alleged satanic occult networks, abuse, and systematic cover-up. The author positions himself as both victim and truth teller, someone who has lived through this dark world and is now trying to pull back the curtain. He uses spirituality and metaphysically charged language, references to demons, archangels, Uriel, the void, Antichrist, etc. The tone is part investigation, part confessional, part metaphysical spiritual. It also plays into conspiracy theory terrain, links between ritual abuse, MK Ultra type programming, secret elites, satanic networks, occult symbolism, etc. Underneath context and relevance, the book enters a cultural milieu of satanic. Okay, and I'm going to just, right now, I think as I continue here, I'm going to just sort of shift what you see here and remove this media asset from this overlay here. Okay. And let you see what I am actually here reading from. Okay. So it says context and relevance. The book enters cultural milieu of satanic ritual abuse. SRA narratives, which become popular in the 1960s and 1990s and have since persisted in certain circles, especially alternative medium conspiratorial communities. Many of the claims the author makes connect the larger controversial topics: MK Ultra, real and alleged mind control programs, Franklin scandal in Nebraska, child trafficking allegations, secret societies, etc. Because the author is based in Omaha, Nebraska region, he references Omaha in the text. The work situates itself in that geographic context, heartland. The author and his website claim that an extended version was modified or censored, implying controversy around the dissemination of the full version. See blog, someone got on my blog and changed it. Compare the two files. Caveats and the critical considerations. Well, the author, I'm curious about that right there. Let's go down this rabbit hole for a second. Okay. I don't know if you can see that. No. Okay. I'm going to take you off that and someplace else. Okay. He says, I post the real extended version of Rabbit Hole, Confessions of an Antichrist. I posted this in its entirety years ago, but recently someone got on my blog and changed it. So what I'm showing is a PDF. It's not his blog. Okay. And I'll show that here in a second. Confessions of an Antichrist extended version of Rabbit Hole. However, I often discovered, and this is what I wrote. It was 287 pages, 96,814 words. However, after I discovered a post missing every screenshot of the replies, Doug Mishko, aka Doug Mesner, aka Satanic Temple founder Lucian Greaves, Satanic Temple founder Lucian Greaves had in a conversation with me, I eventually discovered the changes in the extended version of my book. I did not edit this. It is 163 pages, and he goes on. And then there's this here. I also believe I don't know. Okay, so, but it has nothing to do with what we're talking about right now. All right. So let me take you to like the Wayback Machine. All right, so you can see that this is from the Wayback Machine archives, and this is a PDF that you can actually download. You can see where you can download it right here if you want to download it. I could download it if I want to. Okay, so this is a PDF of the actual, I guess the book that I read earlier in this broadcast. If you want to listen to that, you're joining me right now, I encourage you to read it or to go back and listen to my reading of it. All right, so I'm gonna share I think I want to use this one right here. All right. Let me fix that. I like to look like I'm in the rabbit hole and you guys are looking down and talking. I'm talking to you. See the illusion there? I just wanted to add that. And if this replays on Spotify, which it's probably going to, that's what the video looks like. Because sometimes, by the way, there is Not My Rabbit Hole on Spotify, and I just recently uploaded the stream that I did earlier this week. I believe it was this week. There's so much happening all in one week. I get lost. Trust me, I'm a busy woman. The Laura Loomer LARP, which that's a little tongue tied. That's a spinner there. But yeah, so I just uploaded that to Spotify, and I'm planning on uploading Thomas Schoenberger, Being Saint Germain on Spotify later on today. That's the plan anyway. Maybe tomorrow. So this morning, it's interesting that David Shurter actually mentioned his dogs today. And, he ran a little live stream. By the way, I want to give a plug for my podcast tomorrow about Kiwi Farms and how David Shurter, it's one of the largest internet stalking communities. The lol cows, they go after people. They go after celebrities and journalists and people, and there have been 3 people reported cases of 3 people unaliving themselves associated with it. There's been a lot of articles about Kiwi Farms. And what's interesting, if you go to the my page here and see what we're go under my live streams, you'll see that it's going to happen tomorrow at noon, or you can go to my community post, because I made a community post. I also posted it on X, at Terry Joyce. You can follow me there too as well. There is a connection. If you look at the thumbnail, you'll see that Trave LeBlanc, the guy, the white nationalist, the anti-Semite, Travis LeBlanc, that David, about 10 days ago, I don't even think it's been 2 weeks, David came out and said that, he had new information proving that Gabe Hoffman is a child trafficking pedo, and this person had sourced him, and he showed the screenshots on his blog. And one of them is Travis LeBlanc. Well, if you look at that screenshot, you'll see where it says kiwi.saint and, ST. And, there's a whole, so I clicked onto the website. I found it. And I found out a lot about that website. And I just want to point out what I find interesting about this is that Travis LeBlanc, that he was trying to use, that was going to be the source, which is like a huge, there's certain people that have banned, Cloudflare banned this website off of their platform. Like, you have to go in and look at it like your computer goes in a different way to look at it. Like, it is really, you can find tons of articles, and I really find it interesting that David Shurter uses, shows it, that the receipt that Travis LeBlanc is showing him via his XDMs to David is from that website. That's a huge connection there. And I find it interesting that also, if you look at David Shurter's post about it on his blog, you will see shares of Johnny Dove, of Thomas Schellenberger's emails meant for David that David posts on the site. And Travis LeBlanc uses Thomas Schoenberger's lawsuit against Gabe Hoffman in his argument. He did it with me online, and he's also using that as some sort of source, some sort of proof of David Shurter's claims. And I just find it interesting that why would he use or try to use the lawsuit between the two men as a receipt to validate, David Shurter's defamation. So we're going to explore Kiwi Farms tomorrow. And, just go to my page here. I'll even give you the link to that particular show here, so you can join me and put on the notification bell of when that live stream is going to take place. Let's see. Get it for you. Sorry for taking a moment here. So, how is your weekend going so far? It's we're in the middle of October and the weather is changing, and to be honest, I am enjoying it this fall. It's lovely. It's so nice to have it be cooler. Yeah, Saint Germain. Aiken says, "Black dog bully boys." Hashtag. Yeah, it's kind of I've done some research on it, and it's really interesting. And I went into it last night. I'm really looking forward to dissecting that group in general, but just to see where the tentacles comes to us, and how David is using that. So I'm going to play a little bit of David Shurter's live stream today that he did. And, it was short, which is always enjoyable. And I don't believe he prayed, which, we were spared that experience. But let's do this. This is fair use. We're just educating the public. Let's take a look at David. Let's see.
I might still do one tomorrow, but I just wanted to bring up. I just got an email, or I just saw it in my email from Johnny Dubb, who is a close associate of Thomas Schoenberger. And they're all going on and on. Just, I believe it's Doug Mesner, aka Lucian Greaves, founder of the Satanic Temple. I believe a lot of the emails that I'm receiving are that idiot. And before he sent me an email, and I'll put this all on my blog. I haven't done it yet, but I will put it on my blog. But yesterday he sent me stuff about Gabe Hoffman came out and said Thomas Schoenberger hooked up Isaac Cappy with Nathan Stoltman. And I wasn't quite sure why Doug, as Johnny Dubb, was sending me that, because if you all remember right, it just happened within the last year.
So let me pause there for a second. Again, there's this whole thing, David is claiming that Isaac Cappy was already dead on the bridge. And I don't know, the people who prop him up on the bridge is, I can't remember. It changes all the time, but it's always like, maybe it was Corey, now it's Craig Shoemaker, not Craig Shoemaker, but Craig Sawyer. Craig Sawyer's involved with Isaac Cappy's death. Now apparently he's claiming that Joe Rogan, or people talking about how Joe Rogan's going to investigate into this, and how he contacted Marjorie Taylor Greene, who, by the way, what's interesting about that is Kiwi Farms, when her house was broken into or something like that, there was something that happened, and the people that were connected to that were from Kiwi Farms. So I don't know. Maybe Marjorie Taylor Greene might want to know that one of the people that you're accusing of being involved with Isaac Happy's death, and people associated peripherally, like I'm part of the Dead Isaac Happy Club, that maybe she should know that those people have, someone who's connected to that or is using a receipt of that against one of your targets. There's a connection there, David. So, anyway, we're going to continue because we're going to get more into the stuff here coming up.
Here, Thomas Schoenberger and Johnny Dubb, who I believe is Lucian Greaves.
Well, that's a friend. It's been confirmed that that's a friend. That's a guy. That's somebody who's been a colleague almost of Thomas Schoenberger, a friend, somebody who's been part of doing this type of stuff with, sock accounts and things like this and participating in drama LARPs. David's already admitted that before, but now he believes it's what, Lucian Greaves? It's Lucian Greaves now. Let's go back.
I believe is Lucian Greaves, bragged to me repeatedly that they were the ones who connected Isaac Happy with Nathan Stoltman. But the fact that they're pushing this narrative, I already have.
Let's just stop that right there. Everybody knows that Thomas Schoenberger connected Isaac Happy to Lift the Veil. It's been confirmed. It's been verified. So to say that it's Lucian Greaves or anybody else is ridiculous.
About Nathan right now, because what I was told was Nathan was disappearing and he's in and out of the hospital and there's just so much chaos. And
so David is doing exactly what a lot of these guys do. All right. And it's a pattern that they all have. And I'm going to call them all out. What people that I have done this, that I've witnessed. And I believe a lot of people have witnessed. Everybody shifts their alliance. Everybody all of a sudden will have a problem with a person. For example, earlier this year, Blazing Scar all of a sudden turned on Thomas Schoenberger and Nasty Troll Media, but now they're aligned again in the things that they share about me. And the defamation they share about me. Recently, Denise does this all the time. Denise, will all of a sudden just talk crap about somebody, but then obviously she's aligned with them. And I think that is sort of like a little cover up, so they don't seem like they are attached. And also, let's say somebody, has a problem with a particular person. Like I've been talking for a really long time, how Nathan Stoltman told David Shurter that I was never on the Lift the Veil. And then, David Shurter was using Nathan Stoltman's words to verify his defamation against me, and they ganged up against me. But in order to diffuse what they've really done together to somebody, they will all of a sudden pretend like they're enemies, or they will become critical of the person that they were actually in alignment, literally maybe weeks before or even days before.
In the last last year, he's been in the hospital twice. The problem that I always had with it is that Thomas Schoenberger seemed to know every single thing. Where his hospital was, fuck. If you asked Thomas, he would be able to tell you what he ate that day. And I didn't trust it because there's such a thing called HIPAA laws. How the fuck did Thomas Schoenberger know what the fuck was going on with Nathan Stoltman?
Yeah, David is a pretty good dresser. He's got style, everything. And I know, when you're an artist and you're broke, artists can make broke look sexy, but not David Shurter. But anyway, he's always like, where did that shirt come from? How does he afford lemonade? He seems to be living okay, and yet he's constantly having to grift for money, and he's always in some sort of desperate need. And it's different. His finances He has an issue with them because because of the trauma and the targeted harassment he gets for being an SRA whistleblower. But there's nothing going wrong here, is there? And he doesn't look like he's losing weight because he's starving.
And then when Nathan Stoltman did that proof of life thing, Nathan looks great. Better than I probably have ever seen him before. He does not look like some dude who's been in and out of the hospital, committing suicide and having nervous breakdowns twice in a year. He didn't look that way. So now they're Johnny Doug Mesner, forward this morning, and again, I'll put it on my blog, forwards me an email saying, oh, they've connected, now Joe Rogan is getting involved with this whole thing with Isaac Cappy. And Thomas says, oh, well, David Shurter can't get around it. And he actually says this shit. He's too unstable, Of course, Thomas doesn't want me to be around it because I know who the fuck killed him. Thomas Schoenberger was actually involved. And Thomas Schoenberger was involved. Him and Craig Sawyer were the ones who murdered him at that, were the ones who murdered him at that military base. 2 minutes.
That's it. Now it's Craig Sawyer and Thomas Schoenberger murdered him at the military base.
It's away from that bridge. Johnny Depp is.
And then they propped him on the bridge like Weekend at Bernie's.
Greaves, they're all involved with it. And then he said, well, I bet that since you mistakenly or whatever gave David the email address, he's probably emailing them. Yeah, I am. I just added it to my big long list of emails. And the reason why is because he's
emailing Joe Rogan now.
I was trying to reach out to Joe Rogan. It was exactly for the same reason that I've reached out for a lot of people. Do I actually think that they're going to do anything to help? Will they jeopardize all that they have to go after their rich benefactors and masters? And that's all of them. Not just Joe Rogan, that's all of them. My guess is the answer to that is no. Not one of them will do the right thing. I'm not sending out my shit to them so that to compel them to do the right thing, because for the most part, for a lot of them, I don't think they're capable. What I do is send my shit out because I believe we're in judgment and you are accountable for what you know. That's the reason why I send my shit to Marjorie Taylor Greene and all of them. They're all, I send out all my shit.
Let's break this down. All right. Earlier in this episode, I read from a PDF of his, follow-up book to Rabbit Hole, Confessions of an Antichrist, page 88 and 89, where he talks about beating his dog almost to the point of death. But in the end, the dog taught him unconditional love because the dog loved him anyways. And this guy is emailing Joe Rogan and Marjorie Taylor Greene with conspiracies about Isaac Cappy. And he has pointed fingers at people like me who never knew Isaac Cappy peripherally. And he's accusing Thomas Schoenberger and Craig Sawyer, who is a known and respected, probably one of the most respected people to bust child traffickers out there, one of the most legitimate child trafficker forces out there to stop child trafficking, then Craig Sawyer. And now he's emailed what? Did he email this? Is this what he's emailing to Joe Rogan? Like, what do you think that what does David think? What does he think they're going to think when they read this? And just get back to the concept is this is somebody who beat their dog, who beat their 3-year-old nephew. if you know, one of the things about somebody being a psychopath, when you see like killers or serial killers, like one of the first things that they do is harm animals. Even when you read what I read earlier, in my assessment, you still see no regret. You see him being a victim because what he did was witnessed, and it got into his workplace, and he pretty much, I guess, had to leave his job over it. And yet, even then, he says it's not really real. It's not really something that he needs to be responsible for what he did. I hope the therapist didn't say, hey, you know, this is like just you're acting out, you're behaving this way because people told you were bad, so you're bad. Therefore, you're not really liable for what you've done, or there should be no concern that he might do it again because he's rationalized it. Therefore, he can rationalize it in the future. If you harm animals, you harm humans. And if you think that humans are like animals and you're willing to harm a human, that's one of the things that's part of the, you know, 5 reasons that 4 out of 5 reasons that, you know, the UN declared Israel's is committing genocide is because they called they call the Palestinians, or they refer to them as animals. Well, then, if you know, David it thinks about his animal that way, obviously he does or has done. He's already beaten a child. What makes you think that he's better now as an adult when every time that we listen to him on his channel, he has zero regret and always saying that the reason why people are pointing that out about them is because they're Satanists and want to ruin them because they're the ones who are the child traffickers. That is his defense.
To a lot of people, and it's only because I want them to be accountable. They're responsible for what they know, and what they choose to do with that knowledge is what they're held accountable for. So that's what I do. I send my shit out. When I was looking for Joe Rogan, did I think Joe Rogan was going to do the right thing? No, but I had to give him the chance. Marjorie Taylor Greene, another person, and they're just 2 in a whole long list. All the people that I think need to be tested and judged with knowing the fuck of what's going on, and then choosing not to, or worse, protecting and defending the fucking child killers. It's all part of the whole judgment thing. You know, it's all part of judgment. That's why I do what I do. I personally do not think there's time to actually fix all of this. We just got hit with an X-flare. We have 3 solar storms headed our way right now from the sun. That 3-eye atlas seems to be having a serious effect on the sun, which has already been going crazy, you know? So what, in the last few days, we've had, well, yeah, past 3-4 days, 5 M-class solar flares, 3 solar storms that are headed our way, and just in an X-flare, you know? And there might be more. I haven't looked at it this morning. There could be more. The sun is going crazy. And so I believe we're in a period of accountability. And do I think that they're going to do the right thing? No, but they have to be given the chance. They have to know. They have to know. That's why I reach out to them. That's the reason why, you know, I don't believe, and I base this on history. When has any of them ever done the right thing? It's not like this is new. These allegations and everything that comes out, it's not like it's new, you know? And as far as Isaac Cappy goes and Thomas goes, and I'm attacking Gabe because of Thomas, I fucking dealt with Gabe Hoffman years before I even knew fucking Thomas Schoenberger existed. I was battling Gabe Hoffman when I was battling Craig Sawyer. And I battled Gabe Hoffman and Craig Sawyer a year before Isaac Cappy and Fiona Barnett had an argument with him and went, you know? So And I called out Gabe for the same fucking thing I'm still calling him out for. He hadn't murdered, he wasn't behind Isaac Cappy, but they were all as a group behind Isaac Cappy. Whether or not they were all there is totally worthless, you know? They don't need to be all there, but they're all involved as a group, you know? I personally believe that it was Craig Sawyer and Thomas Schoenberger that dealt with them, and it was Corey Daniel and Daniel Dowd who put his dead-ass corpse on that bridge. And of course they're wanting to spin the situation because this child trafficking shit isn't going to go away. That's the reason why they're bringing out this Liz Crokin. I don't trust her. I don't. You know, any survivor will tell you, any real survivor, Pizzagate wasn't fucking real. It wasn't real. It was a psych op, and it was done by Michael Aquino. They set up Pizzagate and that pizzeria shit to discredit everything. That's what they did. It backfired, and then that dude went and shot it all up. So then Pizzagate became QAnon, which was also stupid. You know, a bunch of dumbasses who don't fucking read a book.
But you went on all the shows. You go on all the shows associated with that, David. Like, your narrative is part of it. All of it.
Are solving these puzzles. Because someone can't just say what the fuck. It is just mind-blowingly stupid. And it was all to detract from the child trafficking. That's what it did. So anybody who said they were involved with Pizzagate was considered a moron. Anybody who said they were part of QAnon, moron. But what does that all involve? Child trafficking. So anybody who talks about child trafficking is then associated with Pizzagate and QAnon. And they're considered morons. See how that works? Most people just throw out the baby with the bathwater.
But you were associated with it, and you know you still go on David Zublick's show, or will they have you anymore? Remember Penniless Shepherd? You are involved with it, David.
And that's what they count on. That's what they count on. So of course Thomas and Lucian Greaves, they're all going to spin the fucking story. I bet they're going to use Nathan Stoltman. Joe Rogan, I will not be surprised, goes and fucking does a whole thing pretty soon. Count on it. Count on it. I'll also say, Doug, you had nothing to do with me reaching out to Nathan Stoltman when I reached out to him years ago. Because I heard about Nathan Stoltman, and then all of a sudden Doug Mesner started emailing me saying, Nathan Stoltman's one of us. You better not reach out to him. You better not reach out to him.
You know, I know Joe Rogan, actually. I know Joe Rogan. I think maybe I'm going to send him an email.
It was all this mind game. You know, I reached out. I wanted to know who he was. And then I walked away from Nathan because he was either playing on the bad side or he was totally oblivious to the bad side using him. Take your pick. But now I look at him and he does not look like a dude who has had fucking 2 nervous breakdowns in the
Joe Rogan was the judge on my season of Last Comic Standing. Like, he called me out. He was the guy who called me out, wanted to talk to me more. We were friends on MySpace. He sent me a request. I bet I can jerk his. I bet I can jog his memory, David. Everybody who's listening.
Last fucking year, not at all. He didn't look like that at all. He looked pretty damn good, better than I've ever seen him, actually. Certainly not someone who's had 2 breakdowns in the last year. So they're going to spin the stories. They're going to spin, and they're already spinning. They're already spinning, and of course they want to keep me out of it. Fuck, I don't give a shit. If I'm involved, if I'm not involved, all I care about is that people have actually been given an opportunity to hear my side of this shit. Because they'll be accountable. You know? They'll be held accountable. Their stories fucking change. They're bullshit. They have a fucking answer for every goddamn thing. When you call them out, they just deflect and distract and focus on something else. I don't do that shit.
Yeah, that's exactly what you do, David.
Here I am. You can see my face. You know my name. I've been at this for what, 2 decades? Wrote a fucking book, have a blog, do all these videos.
Who cares? A lot of people wrote a book and had a blog. That doesn't make you special. It's self-published. You have a self-published book, I think. Or I don't know. Did your boyfriend have a press company that you got published? You're an independent published book at the very least, by an independent publisher. One book. The other one's a PDF, basically. You're not all that in a bag of chips, David. But he thinks he is. And you beat your puppy. And you wrote about it. It's it might be in the internet archives, but what does that make you? What is your character? Why should anybody believe anything you say after beating your puppy almost to death and beating your nephew and molesting him?
Not once has my story changed, and I get told that all the time. I might add to it, but it never changes. And then when I add to it, that never changes. You want to know why? Because all I'm doing is remembering the past. There's no lies involved. It's just simply recalling what the fuck happened.
Uh-huh. Oh.
This group is not after me because I'm crazy and unstable and a liar. Does that make any sense?
Yeah, it does make sense. You are a liar and you beat your puppy.
No, but they've been on fucking top of me. They are on top.
You lack empathy, accountability.
Top of me. I know that the fucking meth head Oompa Loompa has been in my house, and it concerns me because Doug Mesner, as that fucking weird ass person who has about 1 million email addresses, it is accusing me of using peanut butter to molest my dogs. The thought is disgusting. But now I'm concerned because is that why the fucking Oompa Loompa is coming over? Because
okay, there you go. So I wanted to get to the point where he talked about having his dogs being molested. Well, you know what? If you think about your nephew, if you're relating to your nephew and think of your nephew as a dog, did you think your nephew was a dog when you did what you did to them? Now you're going to accuse people of doing that to your dog because the neighbor. Listen to this part.
Because my dogs obviously know him, and they shouldn't. But every time he walks past my house, and he does repeatedly every day, my dogs freak out and are excited thinking he's coming to visit. They don't do that to everyone. In fact, they don't do it to anybody but him. I've never seen the Mexican munchkin walk in front and have my dogs, I don't know. But
why is he even talking about his dogs being molested in the first place? Like, who accuses somebody who is their neighbor walking down the street as something like that? Maybe his dogs like him because he's got a cool aura. Dogs know when somebody's a good person. I've had people's dogs just come up and I'm not to say like, oh, I'm a nice person, but I've had somebody's dog. I went into a restaurant, was kind of open, had an open door, right? And I walked in, sat on a bar stool, and someone else's dog followed me in and sat down near my bar stool. Dogs can like people like that. A complete stranger, David. But the fact that your twisted mind thinks that somebody molested your dog after there's you writing in your book, Confessions of an Antichrist, which is a disturbing name in the first place, that you now that you talk about beating your first dog to death and how it taught you unconditional love. And now you're accusing of somebody, your neighbor, feeding your dog peanut butter in order to molest them. I mean, are you having a psychotic break? I'm sorry, but is that what you're doing, David? I'll see you guys next time.
When I die and they lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to the place that's the sweetest bed. When I lay me down to die, I'm going up to the Twinkie in the, going on up to the Twinkie in the sky. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. I die. I'm gonna bite the snack that I love best. Prepare yourself, you know it's a must. Gotta have a Twinkie if you wanna trust. Just saying, Lordy, I'm so spread. Gonna meet the Twinkie in the sky. Never been a sinner. I've got a sweet tooth. I got an orange sponge cake, a creamy truth. So when I die, don't ask me why. I'm going G up to the Twinkie in the sky. Going on up to the Twinkie in the sky. That's where I'm gonna go when I die. When I die and they lay me to rest, I'm gonna snack on the Twinkie I love best.
When I die and they lay me to rest, I'm gonna go to the place that's the sweetest bed.